trouble starter, pumpkin instigator. I'm the fear addicted, danger illustrated.
Hello, it's Story here for Gamereactor. I got a special treat because I was invited here to Hamburg to have actual hands-on with Just Cause 3. While you're watching it, of course, it's E3, but well, it's not on hands-on there, so I was invited early to get a little taste of the game. I'm here with Anders, who is responsible for all the destruction on screen, and there is a lot of it. Some of the biggest explosions that I've seen in games yet. So let's get right down to it. I mean, Just Cause 2, of course, huge game with a lot of destructions and all that, but of course you have to amp it up for the third game. So where did you start when it came to design that?
Designing the destruction?
I'll hold it.
Yeah. Designing the destruction for Just Cause 3 was among the most fun things I've ever done. The design that came to me is just make it as cool as possible. And I got the option to work with the Havoc destruction, Havoc's new physics destruction system. It's really a extremely fun toy box if you want to do crumbling concrete and things that kind of fall apart and all of that. So we did a lot of research in how do materials behave, how do they destroy. And we kind of took those learnings and just amped it up and tried to get it into the game. Knowing with Rico's new abilities, with his multi-tethers and things, we wanted to do something that's physicalized to a whole new level, so you could actually use the destruction for creating like cascading destruction, so you could shoot out an object in a specific place and it will fall on top of another object and cause an explosion there, and it'll just blow up an entire base if you can like do it in a nice way.
Yeah, I mean, you're providing the player with limitless C4. I mean, 4 at a time, but it's endless beyond that. And like you said, you can tether, what, 3 times? Or have you decided quite yet how many times you can tether?
I mean, we're still kind of playing with how many is appropriate. In this build, we have 3 enabled. It's very fun, just that. We tried more, tried less, but we'll see what we end up with.
And in terms of what you're destroying, I mean, you have, there's 2 types of objects in the game, basically. There's the chaos objects, and then there's normal infrastructure. And stuff like gas stations and stuff like that is going to respawn if you leave and come back. But the chaos objects, if you destroy it and you capture a place, that's going to stay destroyed.
Persistent, that stays destroyed. That's part of the kind of game progression. So you liberate villages and you destroy military facilities, and all those contain those chaos objects. So in order to set them as liberated, we have to keep it persistent. When they're destroyed, they're destroyed.
And I have to say that taking a look at the map, first, I mean, in the build that I played here today, you were spawned in on an island in Region 1. And I take a look at the map and go, oh, that's pretty big. And then I zoom out, oh, there's more islands in Region 1. And then I zoom out, oh, there's another region. And then there's a third region that's bigger than everything else. I mean, just how big is the game world?
If you play Just Cause 2, it's on par with that world. But the thing we're doing now is, thanks to new terrain iteration, we have something called volumetric terrain. So we can actually build overhangs, we can build caves, we can build these sheer cliffs, something that wasn't possible earlier. And this gives our designers a lot of freedom to create these amazing environments. All these caverns you can explore, and all these cool vistas and areas that you glide over with the wingsuit, and it's something entirely new.
Yeah, because that's one thing that I would maybe say about Just Cause 2. Yes, it was huge, but there was, I mean, you kind of got the idea that some of the assets were kind of being reused. You saw kind of similar houses, but here it seems like it's, I mean, it's vastly different between the towns and the bases and stuff like that. I mean, is that going to be throughout the entire game? I mean, just how many? I don't know, kind of, like, because they say there's a huge like history behind the buildings and stuff like that. You know, cities built on ruins and stuff like that. Just how varied is it going to be?
It's going to be very varied. It's part of making the world believable. We have to make it more higher fidelity, also having AI that actually walks around in the environment. And if a city is oppressed, they kind of will be a much more sad place, and shops will be closed, and people won't be happy, and there'll be military on the street. And once you liberate that city, it'll be fireworks, and then shops will start open. People will sit in cafes, talk, have fun. You will notice, like the world changes and expands as you interact with it.
I mean, how is it going to be? Right from when you spawn into the game, are you going to be able to traverse to the other end of the map, or is it going to be kind of region locked?
No, it's open. You could travel directed to Region 3. It will, of course, be quite difficult there, because it's a heavily militarized area, and it's kind of tough for you. But a huge point of this game is that we're not locking the player down anytime. You can always, like, if you're in a challenge, if you're doing a wingsuit challenge, yeah, and you see, oh, that's a cool military base I want to blow up, you can just in mid-flight cancel that challenge and just veer off towards the base and start blowing that one up. And
then the mission for destroying that base will just start automatically. You don't have to visit an NPC. It's just as soon as you start blowing shit up, that's your mission.
Yeah, exactly.
Really nice. And speaking about the wingsuit, I mean, of course you have the parachute, you have all the vehicles that you can either, well, steal or unlock, but the wingsuit, it really kind of brings an extra dimension into traversing.
Oh yes, it's part of our trifecta of traversal, as we call it, and it's one of the best additions to JC3 compared to the second installment, because it really makes Rico fast and agile in a way he wasn't before. And it also allowed us to make the parachute into a more stable platform, so you can use that as something to glide slowly over a military installment and use it to kind of snipe from above, or actually use the tether from above, destroying objects from a distance.
I may be straying a little bit outside of your expertise within the game, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Rico and the story, if at all. I know you're not talking a lot about the story here at this event, but just playing as Rico and like, for example, I was gliding around with my parachute, and I was shooting rockets at one of the satellite installments, and then he started humming like that. He seems like he has a lot more personality. I mean, what are you doing in terms of his personality and kind of the story of the game, if you can touch upon that?
Yeah, the Rico is now returning home. He was born in Mexico, but his mother was from Medici. He moved to Medici and grew up there. And when Di Ravello took power and did the coup to take control over the country, he had to flee. So he fled the country, and while he was away, Di Ravello took over and kind of tainted the entire island with his propaganda and oppressing the people. So Rico has a lot more incentive to kind of save his home nation, and it will also tell a lot more depth into his backstory and who he really is as you explore the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and with that kind of added backstory, you're also telling a lot of the story through the living world, and you're showing, for example, people queuing up at military like installations, you know, waiting in line for food and stuff like that, and also you have all the propaganda that you're destroying. I mean, what are the challenges of creating this living world with these kind of mini stories sprinkled in there, you know, just from watching the NPCs walking around?
It was difficult, but it was also extremely fun. We have developed entire new systems for NPC interactions and NPC behaviors that are being utilized. I can't go into depth about it, but it's kind of important for the game in order to be able to portray a living world, a realistic world, and a world that you actually want to save. So it couldn't have been done without it.
I think wrapping up here, what platforms are you releasing on, and when can players expect to get their hands on the game?
It will be released holiday 2015, and we are releasing on all platforms. So it's Xbox One, PS4, and high-end PC.
So not previous gen, PS3 and Xbox 360.
No.
And I guess the most important question, at least for me, can you still shoot gas tanks and then grapple and hook on them and ride them into the air?
Of course you can. That's part of the JC legacy.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time.
Just Cause 3.